I'm Amy, sex educator, somatic sex and relationship coach, and sex shop owner.
And I'm April, VP of an international high-end pleasure products company and boss queen sex toy mogul. We're best friends who make our own rules about who we are as sexual beings.
With everything from how to be a badass in the bedroom to top tips for bringing your relationship to the next level, we have something just for you.
So sit back, relax, and enjoy the show.
Don't forget to head on over to our website at shamelesssex.com for more. And for 15% off of some of our favorite sex toys, use coupon code SHAMELESSPP in all caps at purepleasureshop.com. Hello, everyone.
Hello.
What is that accent?
My name is Inigo Montoya.
Clearly, we've been preparing for this because April's going to read someone's review. Maybe she's reading that accent. Someone's review, like we said, if you write us reviews on iTunes and you can make a request for a specific accent, we like reviews because it helps our podcast. Although one of you listeners, just so you know,
yes.
you said that you gave us a 4-star instead of 5 because we haven't responded to enough sex questions, and we deserve that. You should.
But we do apologize almost every episode.
But but I understand. We'll take your 4 stars. But you gave us 1 star.
But he only gave us 1 star, I think, by accident. He's like, I gave you 4 stars because. Yeah. So,
anyways, we're going to read a review from a listener.
We are. And
sorry,
as Amy said, we do appreciate all of your reviews. We do read all of them, actually. So if you have the time, take a minute, give us a 5-star review if you love us on iTunes. We love reading them. They're inspiring and beautiful, and we love them. So this person wanted it in a Polish accent, but I'm not really sure how to do that. I'm going to do my best, okay? Polish accent. It's not very long. This is titled Life Saving from your biggest fan, Sydney, from New York. Maybe in a Polish accent if you would like. I don't even know how to do a Polish accent. Go British. I'll just start it out. Tony Montana. I'll just do that at the end. April and Amy are the kind of women needed in this world, spreading love and sexual knowledge and helping me learn about myself. If you are ever struggling, ever curious, or just want to fill yourself with info, these are the ladies for that. I love you, Chip and Dip. Nastrovia, Sydney. Nastrovia. That is really cute. Thank you. That was beautiful. And really, we have some amazing reviews, and thank you all. I'm just welling up with emotion and happiness. Nastrovia. I'll work on the Polish accent, but I had a Polish friend when I lived in LA, but yeah. But it's just it's very soft Russian accent. That's how I feel it is. But I do best with accents when I hear them. Just thinking about it in my brain doesn't really work that well. Yeah, that's German. When you coughed.
Okay, so you did your whole accent thing.
So that would be fine.
Okay, good. Okay, so we're gonna start that again. Okay, so you did your whole accent thing. Okay, yeah. Beautiful, Chip. Love it.
Thank you.
You're so good.
Thanks.
Gracias.
Yes. De nada.
De nada. So everyone, if you want to write us a review, feel free to write us a review. And if you're the person that wrote us a 1-star review that when you meant to do 4, go ahead and change it if you like.
That would be awesome.
And we're trying to get to the sex questions. And the survey thing too, we do have a survey on our website where we're surveying our listeners, and we're not responding to the questions that you write on the survey. What we're doing is we're using them to just create certain material. So if you write something,
it's our compass, basically, to
like
help us.
We'll look at it, and it will give us ideas for future podcasts and who we're speaking to and what they want us to read, or to do episodes on. And we'll go on there and check that out again so that we can speak to y'all's. I have something in my throat, so I might cough on you guys again. So I'm so sorry. But not you guys, y'all. I like that. Y'all now.
Oh.
Okay, so this episode is on a number of things. It's kind of a follow-up from the episode we did on sex trafficking, although it's still very different. It's with someone who works as a lingerie and fetish model, and they actually share some information with us about the FOSTA SESTA laws that are affecting censorship, and especially people who are working in the erotic industry.
But just to be clear, it really affects us all.
Everyone.
Because it's not only affecting porn stars, which actually it doesn't affect porn stars as much as it affects lingerie models, nude models, sex workers, but it affects us as a whole because it is really taking away from some of our rights as humans for self-expression. Yeah. And I think that that's a scary thing to dive into in general. When our freedom of self-expression is being taken away, we have to think about what that means. I mean, does that mean you're a nursing mother and you can't take a photo of yourself nursing your child because your nipples exposed in the photo? That is what it means, actually.
Yeah.
Because the FOSTA laws cover nudity in general, especially third-party sites that are
it's mostly
like
the
Instagram. So if you're a nursing mother,
yeah,
or you're a model, a fashion model, and you have a nipple exposed in some beautiful, piece of fashion you're wearing, that is technically illegal.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, we say this in the podcast, but, nipples and other body parts are allowed to be expressed in so many cultures, and it's all contextual and it's all based on the culture and a time period. And a lot of people just don't think about that. They're like, oh, it's the children, when really the children in other cultures are seeing nips and they're just fine. So it's just something like to think, get out of your own way and to think outside the box of what you've been taught.
And when you don't make something a huge deal, it doesn't become a huge deal.
Yeah.
Like drinking wine, they start drinking wine in Italy. I'm not kidding, at like the age of 8 or 9. It's an acceptable thing. Mm-hmm. And there's probably less alcoholism in Italy. I have to look at the stats, but than there is in the United States, because we put a lot into rules and regulations around drinking alcohol, for instance. Yeah. Same with France. I mean, nudity in France, they had a nude catwalk through the cities of Paris, like naked models walking it was to raise awareness for something. This was back about 2 years ago, and it was beautiful, and it was like public in the streets, and people took photos of it. And now we live in a society where
no nip.
Wah, wah.
Damn it. Free the nip. Well, and this episode, while it has some political aspects, it's also kind of sexy because our guest speaker shares some stories about being a lingerie and fetish model and the experiences that they've had. And
it kind of sounds exciting.
It's super
fun,
exciting.
Like jet setting all over the world and modeling.
She's a hot woman with an Australian accent. So
yeah, tune in for this.
And check out our website and our Instagram, because they'll have some sexy photos of her.
And if you haven't done so, follow us on Instagram, Shameless Sex Podcast on Instagram. We're also on Twitter under the same name, Shameless Sex Podcast. And
come hunt us down.
Yeah,
come hang out with us. And lastly, there's also some open relationship tips in here. To really quickly, it's just like a brief moment in open relationship land. So just some tips on our speakers who is in an open relationship, her opinion on what has worked best for her open relationship. So a lot of useful information. We're going to keep it nice and short and sweet today and just dive right into the podcast. Did you have anything else you want to share with our listeners, Chia?
I am sapping on some Margins wine.
Oh, she's back on the wine.
Yeah.
Finally, I've been waiting for the day.
Finally. Well, technically when this podcast airs, I'll be back off the wine.
Oh, you're going back off of it?
Yeah, I'm going to do a 2-day-a-week thing.
Oh, you went on and off.
Yeah. So I'm not going to put super strict boundaries on myself. So when we're recording podcasts, as long as it's not every day, I will drink with you.
I hope everyone knows that we're not alcoholics. Like, we're not just like heavy, because we talk about wine all the time, but it's just become tradition that when we podcast, we drink wine, and we just like wine. But we're not like waking up and drinking the wine. Yeah,
it's a ritual for us. And wine is beautiful. We're not drinking 5 glasses. We're having a glass. Yeah. And you know what? No judgment. If you have 5 glasses, go for it. But Margins Wine, if you haven't done so, she's making beautiful, beautiful wine. New releases are coming in July. So sign up for her newsletter at marginswine.com. Her name's Megan, who makes the wine, and she's quite talented. She went to school to be a vintner, and she is amazing. So check it out. And yeah, I think that's all I wanted to add.
All right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Should we go for it?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. So as promised, we are going to dive into our podcast. First, I will read the bio of our wonderful guest speaker. So, Kimberly K has traveled both domestically and abroad to some of the most remote locations and exclusive parties, modeling for audiences with widely diverse sexual tastes. As she's met friends in all sorts of walks of life, they've piqued her desires to explore her own limits. Her new website, KimberlyKModel.com, is a photo and video journal as she explores what turns her on and the power of sex in our society. And let me just let you know that it's Kimberly K, KIMBERLYK model.com. Welcome, Kimberly.
Hi, Kimberly.
Hi. Thank you so much for having me.
Sounds amazing. Your life, exclusive parties, remote locations.
I want your life.
I know. Wow. What's the most remote location you've ever traveled to?
Oh, wow. I've been all over. I've been to Africa and parts of Asia and Europe, and obviously I'm from Australia, so I've done every continent except Antarctica, which is still on the list.
Oh, nice.
Ooh, nude modeling in Antarctica.
It might be cold. No nipple prepping needed.
It might cure me of my fear of the cold.
Yeah, I could use some of that. So can you start by telling us some of your work as a lingerie and fetish model, like how you got into it and what that work looks like?
Well, I think like when I was a teenager, I saw models and I kind of just had this idea that they had to be, rake thin and this certain type of body and this, but then I became an adult and I kind of fell ass backwards into it. And because I was a professional dancer and then, it just kind of fell into that. I've been the person who says yes to the things that most people say no to. So people say, you want to get naked and have a live snake crawl all over you? And I say yes. Or they say, you want to get naked and get covered in paint? And I say yes. So
Awesome.
I sort of fell into the more, the risque, the more dangerous side of it. And as a result, I discovered that modeling, there's so many kinds of models. Now you've got all the cosplay models and that whole thing happening, all different kind of kinks. The internet has just kind of been a Pandora's box for people's different kinks and fetishes. And then you've got the girls who are at parties and girls who go to, the racetracks. I mean, it's like there's so many different kinds of models. And I realized, oh, cool, I don't have to kind of starve myself or get surgery. And I can still like do really outrageous things and have my picture taken doing them.
And have a beautiful, natural, gorgeous body. I've seen you before. What are you, like 6'1"?
Oh, I wish. No, I'm 5'10",
Okay.
but 6'1" in heels probably.
Yeah, she's like 5'10", beautiful, tall, Australian blonde. Come on, everyone. You know what I'm talking about. Can you tell our listeners what cosplay is? Because a lot of people won't know what that is, and you commented on that.
Oh, yeah. Cosplay is like, I guess with Comic-Con and that whole culture coming up, there's a lot of models who they specialize in cosplay, and they'll become the characters, and they'll have these crazy, outrageous photo shoots in these awesome, superhero costumes, and they'll get flown all around the world to go to Comic-Con and dress up and get paid to be there as a certain character. But that's a particular niche. I would love to get into it, but my boobs aren't quite big enough, but hopefully I can get like the long-legged superheroes.
You could be, there's so many. What was that? Harley Quinn?
Oh,
She's
yeah.
she's totally, you could do Harley Quinn.
She's not big boobs.
No,
No.
she's petite, but yeah. Well,
I once was dressed up for a party as Wonder Woman, and this guy came to hit on me, and I wasn't interested, and I kind of made that clear that I wasn't interested, and then he turns around and goes, "Oh, well, I thought Wonder Woman was supposed to have big tits." And I was like, oh God. Sorry.
Uh-huh.
That's the best you got.
Yes. All right. So a note to anyone listening, that's not a good pickup line, and your defensiveness is not welcome. What do you, so as for doing fetish and nude modeling, I'm sure there's like a little, a rush that you get out of it, or like a sense of empowerment. Can you describe a little bit about that feeling, other than, of course, you make money for it, but like, what does it feel like for you?
It feels really, after a while, you totally forget that you're naked, and then people have to tell you that you're naked, which can be interesting. I was at a shoot the other week, and we were in a sound studio, and the guy who runs the sound studio came to show me where, something was. And I said, oh, okay, great, I'll come with you. And he says, you're going to need to put some clothes on though. And I was like, oh, damn, I've spent so many hours in the nude that didn't occur to me. So, but yeah, it usually takes people about 10 to 15 minutes to get over the fact that you're naked. I was at a party the other night, again, naked, covered in paint, for this cool event downtown. And yeah, some people were like, oh my God, can I have a selfie with you? And then other people were kind of like, oh my God, she's naked. And they kind of couldn't get past that. And they'd only look at me when I was turned away. And it was really funny.
Sounds sexy. Downtown LA?
Yeah.
Oh,
it was this cool event. It was like sponsored by Ease. And so there was just a bunch of like different music artists, and there was a visual artist, and there was lots of weed and alcohol. It was a cool event.
And fetish modeling, is that more, I'm picturing, because some of our listeners may not know, but and maybe I don't know either, but is that more using like leather and kind of latex, things like that?
Yes. Latex is so much fun. That was one of those things I didn't think I'd be into it until it was on my body. And once you get in the latex, especially a cat suit, and then you look in the mirror and you're like, wow, I am a superhero. This is amazing. But the fetish, it depends like I have big feet, so I don't really get the feet thing much. But I get the long leg fetish. So I've been paid to dress up in heels that are, 1 foot tall platform. Which have been, feared for my life. But that, taking an already tall woman and making her just obscenely tall is, tends to be the niche I fit into. But yeah, the fetish stuff is, I guess I've found out more about fetish from the different things that I've been asked to do. There's so many. There was once I got asked for a shoot who had a fetish for women with big Adam's apples, and I had to send in a picture of my neck as like an audition, and I got rejected. My Adam's apple was not big enough, so I missed out on that shoot.
Damn
so yeah, things.
I wonder if my Adam's apple is big enough.
I don't think so. I think you'd get rejected.
I
don't think so. I don't think
get rejected. What's the most interesting, in your opinion, experience you've had with modeling? Like whether it's the Adam's apple thing or the snake running over your body. I'm just curious because it sounds like you have a wide variety of different experiences under your belt, and I just want to know like the wildest or most interesting one to you.
I don't know if it's just because it's so fresh in my memory, but the experience with the snakes was really incredible, because initially he pulled out the first snake, because there were 3 different ones I shot with, and he had it around his neck, and this is a boa, a Colombian boa, and he's about to place it around my neck, and he says, now just know that the snake has no legs or arms, so what the snake fears most is falling, because, it's got nothing to cling onto. So the first thing he's going to do is wrap around your body wherever he can. So I was like, oh, okay. And then he put the snake on my neck, and the first thing I felt it do was squeeze around my neck. And I thought, oh, usually I would have felt a boa around my neck squeezing. I would have freaked out. But the fact that he explained the psychology of the snake to me, I got to relax into it. And actually, the more relaxed I got, the snakes could feel it, because they sense in vibration and heat. They have like this heat vision, but so they can sense your heartbeat and your fear. And so the more relaxed I got, actually the more snuggly they got. And they were, all 3 of them. I got kisses with 2 different snakes that day. 2 of them like put their tongue on my lips. It was so cool, and I just couldn't believe how cuddly and friendly they were.
I know that our listeners who are terrified of snakes are like cringing right now, and our listeners that aren't, they're like, "Ooh, I want that experience," because that sounds like kind of almost like a spiritual experience to be like aligned vibrationally with a snake.
I was picturing like a music video.
Yeah. Like I'm a slave for you.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, but Britney Spears moment. So
I love
okay,
that song.
I have a question though, because we just did a podcast, and when this one airs, this will be 2 podcasts ago now. And we were talking about sex trafficking, and I know that you don't have anything to do with that, but there's the laws, the FOSTA SESTA laws that we commented on in that episode, but we all, both this guest speaker and ourselves, we didn't have a lot of information on it, and I know that it's affecting the nude modeling and the fetish modeling world, and that you're quite the activist. So can you tell us a little bit about that laws, how they're affecting people who do erotic work, and what your opinions are on them?
Yeah, sure. It's not actually just sex workers who this is going to affect. It's actually everybody, because it's an across the board rule that basically makes websites now responsible for third party content, which they weren't prior to, and that was the boom of social media and things like Facebook and stuff, because they weren't responsible for whatever happened, whatever was posted, they weren't responsible for it, and now they are, which is why you're seeing all these security measures tightening up, and so it's really it's really a question of freedom of expression and censorship, and now it's not just censorship, but it's now censorship. We're now being held responsible for other people's actions, which is that part is new, and that part I believe is dangerous. And I actually have, because of my work, I've been in many circles, and I have a lot of friends, who are directly affected, sex workers, escorts, doms, porn stars. I have friends in every industry, and and I've talked with them about it, and a lot of them who are really incensed because the backlash. I'm sure that the initial intention of these laws was to get the traffickers and to stop that, but really in the end it's actually the trafficked victims who are going to hurt the most from this, because yes, while Backpage was found out to have been helping the traffickers and advertise, but that's also how a lot of parents were then able to find their daughters again. And so them going after Backpage and shutting that down, and now there's a lot of parents, and it's going to be forced further underground into the dark web, where a lot of people may not have that technological savvy or that kind of access to figure out where they are in the dark web. And so there's a smaller chance of these parents actually finding their children now. So it's actually gone totally against the initial intention and the people who need to be helped. And it's actually then affecting a whole bunch of people across the board now who have nothing to do with trafficking. And also there's really no room in the conversation whatsoever about consensual and non-consensual sex work. In the eyes of the law, they're actually all under the one umbrella, and I've always found that really bizarre, because when you think about consensual age for sex, there we have a distinction in the law between a minor and an adult, but when it comes to sex work, we're all treated as children, and there is no category for adults who choose this line of work or any line of work that isn't porn. Porn's really the only legal sex work in the industry.
Which is so interesting, because I know that even in the porn world, like the person that did the podcast with us 2 episodes ago, they were in the porn world, and they said there was a lot of coercion and a lot of really hurtful, scary things that were happening there in their experience. And so, and of course, there's some people that are doing porn that love it, and they're doing it working for companies that aren't coercing them, and et cetera, et cetera. But it's not to say that there's one industry where it's somehow safer or more morally acceptable than all these other ones. It really just doesn't quite make sense. So it just seems like there's just some lobbying going on for who's making the money, and the folks that like porn and want to keep it legal. And But how is it affecting you now in your modeling work? Is it harder for you to find work? Is it harder for you to protect yourself, or is there like what is that looking like for you?
Well, this is actually, I mean, I'm a bit of a I'm kind of swimming upstream against the grain right now. Everybody's kind of going more conservative, you know, having to cover up their nipples and whatnot, which I think is absurd. So, and people are having to change their branding and change their presentation. But for me, it actually kind of propelled me into, I've always wanted to do this exclusive content thing. Like I've been on a job and, you know, people have asked my Instagram and asked if I have exclusive content. And so it's kind of been simmering in my imagination for a while, but it all kind of came about at the same time when I decided to do the exclusive content. And around that time, every single picture with my nipples, with any kind of nip slip evidence, was quickly removed from either my Twitter or my Instagram. And so I kind of felt really like, oh, well, they're my nipples, and if I want to show them, then I should be able to, especially if I'm a nude model. Like I don't want to cut off my torso, or, you know, this is ridiculous. So it actually has, you know, lit a fire under my ass to start this exclusive content realm, which is launching at the end of this month. And I'm super excited about that because I kind of get to really let my freak flag fly and invite others to do the same, you know, because I think there's so much shaming going on and there's so many people going underground that I want to be some kind of opposite force that's, you know, being more expressed and more fully expressed. And like, here I am in all of my expression, and I invite, you know, my members and my viewers to do the same.
So being from Australia, I mean, I love Australians, and in other parts of Europe, other countries, it just seems so, I don't know, backwards to me that the government, the U.S. government specifically, is putting such laws against nudity. It's like, I can understand sex trafficking and that aspect, but nudity, the body's beautiful. If you're not spread eagle, even if you are, I don't know. I feel like every other country is probably like laughing at some of what we put on. There's so much stigma around the body, and there doesn't need to be, right? And so I don't know. Your nipples are beautiful. Why not? Yeah. If you want to show them to people, why not have that ability to do that? Why does it have to be against the law?
Absolutely. Actually, I was at Burning Man for the first time last year and fell in love with Black Rock City. And I was wearing not very much, as you know, as you do at Burning Man. And I made this friend, and he asked me, what's with the pasties, you know? and he said, I've been to Burning Man like 10 years in a row, and it's always been nipples. This is the one place where, you know, females can show their nipples and not feel threatened. And he's like, all of a sudden there's all these pasties popping up. And I said, well, think about it. Look at the new security laws on Facebook and Instagram and all the social media networks. Like, we're basically sending these unconscious messages to girls that it's okay if you're a boy and you show your nipples, but it's not okay if you're a girl. And it's just so interesting because then you think about, well, this is a really, okay, well, what about transgender? Like, is there not a huge gray area here where does this fit in this category, you know? And why are girls being sent messages that there's something wrong with their nipples? I actually had a nip slip on my Instagram once, and it started a bit of a riot in this forum on the comments because someone came on and said, this is inappropriate, you know, there are children on Instagram. And other followers of mine kind of jumped into the forum and they said, look, dude, like the human body is a beautiful thing, and there's nothing offensive or gratuitous here. And then another follower jumped in and said, nipples aren't hurting children.
Yeah, they're not hurting children. And then if you go to other cultures in other countries, it's different standards, and people just forget to think about that. They forget to think outside of their own cultural experience and what, you know, that they think that that's the norm and the standard everywhere. But it's just a social conditioning. It's a social construct of where we live in this specific time period. You know, it might not be the same in 100 years. Hopefully people get a little more comfortable with some nip and some nudity and the body that you were born in. and, deciding that you have to cover it up from the start because it's too much and inappropriate. It's just old stuff that comes from the Bible or from religion or a whole bunch of things that were designed to control people's bodies. So that's my rant.
Totally. No, totally. And when you think about it, like the nipple is one of the first things a child comes in contact with in the world. So it's, and it is like a life force for them. So is
that going to affect mothers that are like freeing the boob? Like on Instagram, is this law going to affect them?
I don't know, but I mean,
like a good question, right?
That's absurd. They have rooms now, like at airports where, breastfeeding rooms. I'm like, okay, this is kind of absurd. A woman should be able to breastfeed wherever she so chooses, Totally. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just a nit, people. Okay, so your creative project that you're doing, though, so when you said that to create exclusive content, means that you've created your own site with your own material, and so you're just going in your own direction. You're not relying on other sites to take care of that for you because they're all now being completely censored. Like, what is that? Is that just what that means, that you're just going your own direction and creating whatever it is that you want to freely express yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's going to be a paid members. It's going to be for paid members. Obviously, I'll still be posting content on my social media, and I will hopefully lure them into my exclusive content realm. But yeah, that's once they're in that realm, then they'll get to experience Kimberly's full expression, which I'm really, really excited about because I have a lot of ideas and things that I want to do, and I don't always get booked on jobs that I dream up in my mind. So I've kind of decided instead of waiting for these shoots to come up, for the perfect job to come up, I could create this paid member site and use that revenue to pay for the shoots that I've always wanted to do and be able to kind of let my imagination run wild.
That sounds great. Yeah.
And then it gives you the freedom to do whatever you want. You're not being censored by anyone, and no one at this point can come to you and shut your website down. At least they haven't passed those laws yet. But at this point, it gives you room to be fully expressive about your sensuality and sexuality as you please.
Exactly. Because it's not third-party content. That's what the laws are really addressing is the third-party content. So if I created a public forum on my website, I could then and say something started happening on that forum from other users and they started maybe hustling on my forum, I would then be in trouble or could potentially be in trouble. That's what's so kind of ludicrous here is it's actually not the traffickers who are being targeted by this law. It's the hosts of the website of anywhere that those traffickers have posted, an ad. So it's actually then gone into this really widespread law where everybody has to kind of fear for their third-party content now, which it's kind of going against all this freedom that we've experienced for, I don't know, the last decade or so on the internet. But that is about to change. That the period of the era of freedom of expression on the internet has definitely come to a bit of a halt.
Well, I highly suggest everyone free the nip. Check out this content at KimberlyKModel.com. On a side note, because I've met you in person before, I just want to throw this out there because we only have a little bit longer of the podcast, but I know that you're in an open relationship, and this is a total side note. But I just want to know if you can share like your top 2 to 3 favorite tips that for our listeners to navigate open relationships. Like, what have you learned that works for you?
I learned things by doing everything wrong. That's for sure. I was in an open relationship for a long time, and I kind of, I don't know, I guess I abused the freedom a bit and used the label as some kind of excuse for doing whatever I wanted and without any consequences. But now I'm in a different kind of open relationship, and I'm actually learning so much about what that means to actually be in the open relationship and face it instead of just kind of using it. So I guess my first one would be definitely acknowledging jealousy. Because for a long time I just pretended that I wasn't I actually not just pretended, I convinced myself that I wasn't a jealous person. And as a result, if I did get triggered and jealous feelings came up, because I didn't identify with them, they kind of stayed in my shadow and festered there and manifested in accusations and blame and, you know, not really taking responsibility for my feelings. So that would probably be my next point. Communication. And actually talking about things and going through them together and realizing that just because you're going through a rough patch doesn't mean you're not going to come out of it the other side. And negotiation, I think that's the best thing about open relationships is that you get to create your own rules, you know, and we've all been given these rules of monogamy and they've been handed down to us, but they're not necessarily rules that are in line with who we are, you know. So I think the greatest thing is if you can find people who, you know, can voice their expectations and you can voice yours and your needs, and you can find negotiations to find a place where everybody feels respected and everybody feels loved and valued and free to express themselves in every way that they want to.
I think that's like the general theme of course, of our podcast in general, but of this episode, whether we were talking about the FOSTA, SESTA laws or open relationships, it's really to start paying attention to who's making rules for your life and for your sexuality and sensuality and your relationships. And a lot of people, I think, don't even notice that, and they just believe into the story, you know, the myth of what everything should look like. And, you know, laws are passed, they start abiding by them and not questioning them, and how it's really hurting their freedom of expression or their freedom of choice of who they are as sensual sexual beings. And that in turn can make it so that you feel kind of stuck or caged, like you're not living to your fullest potential. And so I think these are just great things. Even if you're not in an open relationship, to just consider, like, you know, why am I in a monogamous relationship? And like, okay, that feels true to me, but where did that come from? You know, what was I taught, and why am I choosing this? And if it's for you, then it's for you. And if it's not, and you're starting to hear some things of like, oh, there's other options, then start exploring them.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that idea of kind of reanalyzing whose rules are these? Are these my rules? Were they given to me? Yeah. I think that's a really fun place to explore.
Yeah. A lot of people don't even think that way. I remember when I know that for April and I, when we started doing that with our sensuality and sexuality, we were like, whoa, okay, there's a lot of bullshit here and there's a lot of options, and now our lives are just so much more fulfilling. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
So how can people find your work? Tell us a little more about, can they follow you on Instagram? Tell us more about your, like, and you can name your website again.
Yes, please. I have Instagram and Twitter. It's the same handle. It's Kimberly K Model, all one word. And my website, right now you can go onto the website and you can put your email down for to be notified of the launch. The launch happens, I think, around the 27th of June. And the website is kimberlykmodel.com.
And we'll have a photo on our website of you that I'm going to ask you to send me of your sexy self. And,
awesome.
So people can check you out, and we'll put it on our Instagram too, so you know who we're talking to. And everyone, if you have more questions about these laws that we're talking about, even if, you know, like Kimberly said, you know, you're not a sex worker, you're not a live nude model, but just to be aware of how they might be affecting you indirectly, and you aren't even aware of it, or affecting someone that you know. So it's always good to educate yourself and be aware of what's going on.
Absolutely.
Well, Kimberly, anything else you want to add?
No, I've had a really fun time. Thank you so much.
We've had a fun time. I love learning about snakes and sexy fetish modeling and freeing the nip and FOSTA. Very, very informative, yet exciting and inspirational too. I think you're doing great work for those folks out there.
You too. I really admire what you're doing. I really admire what you're doing with this podcast. So thank you, and keep being amazing trailblazers.
Oh, you too, Kimberly. And we hope to see you soon. We'll look for you on your Instagram. We'll follow you right now.
Awesome. Yes.
All right. You take care. Have a wonderful day. And thank you to all of our listeners for tuning in every Tuesday to this Shameless Sex podcast. We love each and every one of you. We'll see you next Tuesday, y'all. Ciao for now.
Don't forget to head on over to our website at shamelesssex.com for more. And for 15% off of some of our favorite sex toys, use coupon code SHAMELESSPP in all caps at purepleasureshop.com.